Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ali Stewart. I'm Managing Director for EMEA at ShareThrough, and I'm going to talk to you very quickly about how to write effective native advertising copy. On the modern mobile internet, headlines really are the best way of pushing out a brand message in a succinct way. Instead of surfing from page to page like we did in the search-based internet, now we kind of scroll from headline to headline. We take in our stories in content feeds by reading these headlines. The American Press Association actually found that 6 out of 10 people admit that they don't read beyond the headlines when following the news. And our own study showed that 21% of millennials said that they take in all their content in feeds. They're consuming video, reading headlines as the way of understanding stories. And this kind of follows what scientists believe about the power of our subconscious. It's our subconscious that drives a lot of our purchase decisions, a lot of our behaviors. And this is really because our brains haven't changed in 50,000 years. Technology's really changed the way we interact with the world, but we still kind of have this fight or flight mentality, making snap judgments. And this is a kind of case in point. You don't need to read a story to know what it's about. This is an example from NPR. They're an American publisher who posts a ton of content to Facebook, and it always is quite provocative and generates a huge amount of commentary. This example here, "Why doesn't America read anymore?" gets nearly 2,000 comments. However, if you click through to this page, it's actually an April Fool's joke. It says, "Congratulations, genuine readers. If you've got this far, happy April Fools. Please don't comment, but like and share." So they then post that to Facebook. Cue the backlash. "This article's horrible. Americans do read. This article is so typical of the liberal media bias and intellectual elitists in America." Like, people getting really worked up purely from the power of the headline. And this focus on the headline is nothing new. Back in the 60s, Ogilvy said, on average, 5 times as many people read the headline as read the body copy. He used to advise his creatives to spend 50% of their time on the headline and 50% on everything else. And he also said that when you've written your headline, you've spent 80 cents of your dollar. Fast forward to 2018, and this feels a little bit out of date. A 1% click-through rate is incredibly high. So now really you've spent 99 cents or more of your dollar. So what do I mean by this? Really, when you think about your display advertising and your native advertising, optimizing purely for the click is a losing game. You need to start thinking about the value of someone reading your headline in feed and the value of the native impression. So at ShareThrough, we wanted to understand a little bit more about the value of the native impression, so we turned to neuroscience, the study of the subconscious. This enabled us to get people's true impression of a native ad beyond just the CTR. So we partnered with Nielsen Neurolabs and ran 5 studies over the course of a year. This is kind of the split test we did. So on the left-hand side, an editorial feed with a native ad at the bottom. On the right, the same, but for display. And there were 2 key takeaways from the study. Firstly, that native ads are actually being read rather than just seen. And secondly, that the act of reading is really powerful for influencing your brain and your decisions. So this is a kind of typical eye tracking study from the study. The areas of green are areas that receive direct visual focus. As you can see, people are going down the feed, reading the headline in editorials. So that's how they're understanding what each of the stories is about. And that follows through to the native ad at the bottom. We actually found that the native ads receive twice the direct visual focus of a traditional banner. Another big takeaway was the fact that people don't mind when it's branded, and by having your brand front and center, you can have a higher impact in terms of message recall, brand awareness. So this ad for Sky on the right, you can tell there's a new season of Game of Thrones coming, but you don't really know much more than that, compared to on the left, where the ad disclosure talks about the brand, you include the brand in the headline, and that really drives that value. We also found that you can build these intentional brand associations. So by including brand synonyms in your headline, you can drive subconscious resonance lift with your traditional brand values. So in this case, including nice looking and turning heads makes you think that the headphones brand is more stylish. And also the actual words used in the headline matters. So by including certain word groups, you can trigger these moments of micro-attention, draw people into what you're saying, and make them have a stronger emotional reaction. And context words are one of those word groups. So context words are words that place the headline in a wider context. So they suggest some sort of insight from your content. They talk about some sort of time, so build scarcity, or space or motion. And by including a higher number of these in your headline, people pay more attention, you get stronger amounts of subconscious activity, and it's more effective for your brand. So native copywriting 101, firstly, think about having an editorial voice. You're in the feeds of content, so you need to think of headlines rather than taglines. Including context words can really drive emotional engagement and build retention. And using brand synonyms can build these intentional brand associations. So off the back of this research, we wanted to kind of build a tool that our partners could use, we could use internally. So we validated all of our findings and built this headline analyzer. It's free to use. Have a go, headlines.sharethrough.com. And what it does is essentially scores your headline before you run it and gives you suggestions for increasing it. So back to Ogilvy. This is one of Ogilvy's most famous headlines. At 60 miles an hour, the only thing you hear in the new Rolls Royce is the ticking of the dashboard clock. He took like 104 goes before he was happy with it. And this is kind of how the tool works. So initially, you get this overall quality score out of 100. It gives you suggestions, strengths of the headline, and then it gives you these two composite scores. Engagement score, which is based on intel that we've built up from our exchange, which shows the likelihood of someone actually clicking on your ad from the words used. And then impression score, which shows you how likely that headline will actually build brand value from someone reading it in a feed. So give it a go. Thanks very much. Thanks.